Parents of Reddit, what secret do you know about your kids that they don't know that you know? My nearly 2-year-old son seems to love the rewarding experience of finding a lost toy together with either me or his mum. We'll hear from the other room, oh, then a pause, some rummaging, and then where, for example, Thomas gone, he'll sound more and more concerned before coming in and asking daddy or mummy, see Thomas, basically asking us to help him, which of course we do, and usually find it with him. What he doesn't know is that we both know he spends a couple of minutes at the start of each day hiding a couple of his toys around the lounge, leaves it a while, and then pretends they're lost. What we don't know is whether or not he can actually remember where he hid them. I assume he can't, and so must applaud his initiative in creating a genuine problem to overcome together. Reddit. Well, this got rather more of a response than I ever expected. I'm glad his shenanigans have put a smile on some faces. It's made my day. We are off to see some animals, which will make his edit too. Wow guys. Over 10k upvotes. I uploaded this offhand. It's actually been a really difficult few months for my little family. My wife has had some health issues and has been hospitalized a few times. Our little man has unknowingly kept us going, and it means the world to me that his funny little ways have struck a chord with so many people. His little sister was born 2 days ago, very prematurely, but is doing better than I could possibly have dared hope, as is her mummy, who has loved hearing about the response this got. Thank you all. And finally, and in no way is this meant to politicize this at all, thank you NHS. My girls are going to come home soon thanks to you. Amazing. The times that she sent interesting texts to boys, the sneaking out to a function or a boy instead of spending the night at a friend's, and the smoking weed. Knew it all. Stone cold fact point, but that pales in comparison to the Google search history for faking mothers born from my son's phone. Wish I didn't know r/I bleach edit. RIP my inbox. I'm dad, not mom. B. Broken arms. Broken arms everywhere. Before some folks get all gobble, gobble, my privacy, gobble, gobble on me. C. No invasion of privacy was going on. I'm the family tech person, so when my family needs stuff fixed or installed that has blinking lights and talks to the interwebs, they're all like the Packles on Star Trek, and I'm Geordie LaForge. I come across this stuff in the matter of course of fixing every owns sheet. D. Also, my kids have a tell, and I keep it to myself, even when I catch them in a lie or uncover facts that counter what I'm told. Part of parenting is choosing my battles and how to protect them from themselves while holding my eye for stuff that really matters. Don't worry, Reddit, no children were harmed in the making of this childhood. Second edit, did I forget to mention that I'm not a mom, but a dad? You know, a male, with a business and everything. Way too many commenters wishing I was their mom, no doubt, so they can carry out their Wincest fantasies. Warning, long story, not really a secret, but was kept a secret from me for about a month from my son. One day my 7-year-old son came home with marks on his face and around his neck. He doesn't know that I catch him wiping his tears as he walks home every once in a while from the bus stop as I water the grass. He would always tell me he was crying because he'll be missing his friends once we move into our new place in a different city, or he hates going to school and would rather do homeschooling, etc. The bus stop is literally 2 houses down from where we live. So one day I asked him about the marks on his face and the scabs around his neck. He would always tell me some lame ABS about falling in the playground or his friends and him were playing too rough, etc. Until one day I seen one of his drawings of a stick figure punching another stick figure with the bully's name on it. I questioned him about it, and he finally fessed up and told me some child named Damien, who is new a student at the school, beats him up in the bus every once or twice a week. It was so weird to me that my son wouldn't defend himself after all the times he has seen me box, and even attended boxing classes at my best friend/coach's local boxing gym. I was a decent amateur boxer back in my younger days and even taught kids boxing class for a few years before hanging up the gloves, so this was a bit shocking to me. I notified the school/cops and they told me this wasn't anything serious and that boys will be boys. So one day I picked up my son and followed the bus to see where this bully lived. The bus stopped at a trailer park. I didn't even know school buses stopped there, and when the kid came out of the bus he was nearly twice the size of my child, sheet almost as tall as my wife. I then waited for the kid to enter his house, so my son can later knock on the door, to let the parents know I'd like to have a word with them. The bully answers the door and shouts, "K, what the fuck are you doing here?" My windows were down, so I can clearly hear every word he said. Without even thinking, my son clocks him in the face and runs back into my car. The next day the police knocks on my door and asks to have a word with my son. My son comes out and the cops literally start laughing because of how small my son was compared to this Damian kid. Before all of this had happened, I've already warned the school and the local police department that if the bullying continues, I'll have to put a stop to it myself. The school and police later reviewed the cameras in the buses. Damian was definitely beating up my son for about a month in the bus. Almost made me cry watching those videos with the cops. These are one of the proudest moments of my life, seeing my son stick up for himself. Seriously, it's kids like Damian who mess up education/school experiences for innocent children. So, just gonna go out and say I was the child. I don't regret it. Well, I do, knowing they know, but I don't regret it. So me and my female friend, whom I will call Blonde Shroom, decided, yo boy, I'm gonna get a faking edible. Turns out, lot more than a edible. We had brownies, then some shrooms. Really bad idea, cause I thought Blonde Shroom was Princess Peach. I low-key always wanted to fuck Princess Peach, so we started making out cause I apparently was so damn high I would go for any women of any IQ. Anyway, she decided to pull me into my parents' room. IUHM. Spread my special juice across their pillows, the window, and last but not least, a very, very gooey puddle in their bed. So we get sober, eventually realize what we did, and start scrubbing the whole faking house cause we had fun time all over the house. I thought I was home safe till I hear a very loud screech, blank get your white pasties down her before I throw faking Legos at you. She didn't say Legos. I got down there and she was wondering why there was half of a pizza sitting out. My heart faking dropped. I was grounded for 2 days for wasting delicious food. I know that my 2-year-old has a stash of chapsticks that she hides in her toy picnic basket behind the chair that she has stolen out of my backpack and my mum's purse. My 10-year-old doesn't know that I know she is practicing all the latest dance moves in her room when she is supposed to be doing homework. And both my niece and nephew, I know they pick their noses and eat it, lol. As for me, my mom knew when I started smoking weed in 9th grade, and to fuck with me, she would make me and my friends sit with her, and while she was taking to us, she would leave words out of her sentences just mouthing them, and would do this for like 10 minutes straight. All while we would just lean in more and more trying to figure out what the fuck was going on. And then would make fun of us with her friends later on. My dad, on the other hand, straight up said to me at the beginning of my 10th grade years, "Yeah, no, Melina, you better stop walking in this house with her eyes all bloodshot, walking into the walls, and eating all the faking leftovers in the fridge." I just froze like a deer caught in headlights, and he was like, "What did you really think you and her friends were? That clever to hide you smoking weed and drinking? Lol." My stepson has tried to smoke weed. I'm a bit of a clean freak, and as he is 15, well, he is not. On a Thursday he went to his father's house and left the door open to his room. Now, my barn with 60 rabbits, 80 ducks, and 32 chickens is cleaner. I couldn't take it, so I went in and cleaned it. Now I respect his privacy, so I didn't shovel through his stuff, just cleaned up bottles of cola, bags of chips, threw his stuff on the shelf, etc. He comes home on Friday and has a friend stay the weekend. On Sunday my wife was visibly disturbed. She said she wanted to get something from his room and saw a gold tin box she never saw before. She gave it to me and was afraid he is doing drugs. In high school I was a casual smoker, so I looked inside. Well, about 4 papers made out of napkin and a small baggie. At the sight I knew it wasn't weed, sniffed it and it smelled like oregano and tea. I explained to her that his friend must have brought it, and that I will have a stern talking to him. I gave him the box. Of course he acted oblivious, but I told him, if he wants to smoke weed, don't do it in the house. Don't be high in front of your mother, and for God's sakes don't try to smoke herbs and spices, or you'll cough until you puke. Bro, be responsible but don't be that stupid. On the opposite side, I grew up in a really strict house. Like not home by 9 strict, I'm talking about you can only hang out with pre-approved friends for 2 hours maximum once a month strict. So naturally I was dying for human interaction. At around 15, the few friends I had did the nicest thing ever and pulled their money together to get me a low gig iPod Touch. Only problem was that I didn't know the Wi-Fi password at my house, as the router was locked away in my dad's office. Luckily though, there was an open Wi-Fi somewhere in my neighborhood. However, it was only accessible in the bathroom. I told my parents I ate some bad food and had been stomach sick, and as time went on I tried leaving subtle hints to them that I might have vibes or something. One day, when I didn't hear her come upstairs, my mom caught me on it as I had gotten comfortable and left the door open. The only thing I could think of saying at the time was, "It's a gift for you." She beat my ass and confiscated it anyway, lol TLDR. Super strict parents wouldn't let me have a phone, so my friends bought me an iPod Touch. My parents found out because I spent so much time in the bathroom. Not a parent, and not my actual parents, but my wife and I have been together since the end of our sophomore year of high school. We are 22 now. I grew up in a less than normal and generally unsafe household where I was allowed to come and go as I pleased. My wife, on the other hand, was not allowed to go wherever she wanted with whoever she wanted whenever she wanted. I thought this was so unfair at the time, but I know what normal is now. Anyway, we got increasingly more rebellious as high school went on. By junior year we were sneaking out nearly every night of the week, and by senior year I was sleeping at their house and getting up early to sneak out before anyone got up, which was difficult since her parents got up at 4:30 am to go to the gym. One morning we got up later because we didn't have school, and she tells me to hide in the bathroom. Her mom comes up and asks if she wants to ride with her to take the dogs to the groomer. She doesn't want to seem suspicious, so she says yes and begins getting ready. Once she's done, she tells me she'll give me the all clear when they leave, and she goes back downstairs. Then she texts me and says the jig is up because her mom asked if I was coming with them or going to sleep in. Turns out she was in on that the whole time. More recently, we sat around a fire with her parents the night before the wedding and talked about everything that would be happening the next day. We talked about how no one was being asked to give a speech, and her dad goes, "Well, if I was going to give one, I think I'd say, wife was a great kid. She got good grades and followed all the rules until Ernta came along. Then she started sneaking out and breaking curfew on a nightly basis. But she still got good grades and we liked Ernta, so there wasn't much we could say." I died laughing. We thought we were so clever. Joke was on us the whole time. We spent the rest of the evening talking about the things they knew and about how we felt at the time. It was really interesting hearing it all from the adult's perspective. Luckily my daughter is still young enough, so I don't have major horror stories yet, but I try and keep all the snacks out of view so she won't automatically default to wanting junk food. Well, she knows where that the snacks are kept. One day I caught her sliding the chair from the kitchen table over to the cabinet, stand on it, and then grabbed whatever she could that was within her little arm's reach. I stayed hidden around the corner and watched her. She just stood on the chair eating some chips out of the bag. I made a little noise, and she was startled. She tried to put the bag back, but it fell on the floor. I waited a minute to see what she would do. She opened the lower cabinet and hid the chips behind some canned foods. I walked in and asked her what she was doing with the chair in the middle of the kitchen. She just looked at me and said, "Oh sorry daddy," and that was it. Just looking up like I've been caught. I just smiled and said, "Be careful." It's definitely not crazy. I just think it was so cute how she's so small, but thought she was getting one over on me. She's been caught red-handed since then, and the snacks have been relocated to a safer location. This is super low stakes, but amusing. The original rules for my 9-year-old nephew to play Fortnite were just that he could play any mode, but wasn't allowed to voice chat, because the kid is not a natural born leader and he's very easily led to misbehaving and using foul language by his peers. Every time I play with Randus I hear the most ratchet shit. So my bill decided to keep him off of voice. Well, kids are not completely stupid, and he easily figured out how to toggle that back on and off, and I caught him once with my headset on calling one of his teammates carry trash. After I got over laughing at his chosen epithet, I mildly chastised him and tried to come up with a variation on the rule that would work for his super strict parents. The new rule is that he has to play solos or LTMs like 50v50. On no fill unless myself or his dad are watching him play to confirm he's not on voice. Well, he tried to outsmart us again. The last few times he's played by himself at my house, when I log back in after him, it is set to squads with fill turned on. He hasn't figured out that it saves the last mode you played yet. I haven't tipped my hand, that I know yet, but my plan is to creep up behind him and scare the shit out of him next time he's playing an illegal match. Not a parent, but daughter of mom who, at the suggestion of my boyfriend's mom at the time, fuck you Holly for giving her that idea, made me surrender my phone to her every night at 9, look through every text conversation, every tweet, every ig post, all my pictures, everything, and made me block anyone and stop hanging around who cursed, said oh my god, or said anything she didn't like, or said she was crazy, which all of my friends thought, read through all of my journals, and made me burn them in our fire pit out back regardless of what I confided in them, made me burn any art or poetry she didn't like growing up. Thank you to all the parents in this thread who know their kids aren't exactly doing the right thing, but don't lose their shit and afford their kids a right to privacy. You're raising kids who will have their fun before it can really bite them as adults and get their rebellion out in a healthy way. They will become better young adults and people because of this. You all give me hope. I just got married in March and I've been considering how I want to parent my own kids when the time comes, and I know for sure I'll be taking some pages out of your books when the time comes. I was given one of the many phones that he broke. I sent it into a place I found on Craigslist that was also recommended by a friend. I figured that I would use this as a backup phone in case I ever needed one. It was a Samsung Galaxy 6. When I got it back I played around with it a bit and discovered a whole bunch of nude pics of some poor young girl with my son in various states of undress. I deleted all of them. I also had a friend who does computer work scan the phone for more. There were many more, and delete them as well. But I then found an email string that was very long. It went on over the course of over a year while the boy was in college in Oklahoma regarding the relationship with a woman named Mary. We shall call her. She is quite obviously a mature woman in her 40s or maybe even her 50s. He was set up on a date with her by a friend of hers who had previously spent time with that boy. They had apparently spent some weekends away from his school at a hotel. She wrote yearning letters to him late at night asking him to come and see her again. She offered to send a car to get him plane tickets to wherever he wanted to go. Pretty heavy stuff. She spoke of out of town conferences and adjoining hotel rooms and flex time from work. She recounted a trip to Florida that we did not know about, but I did see some shirts from there and Universal Studios theme park. It appears that he broke it off and she was still pining for him after he moved back home. All in all, pretty crazy stuff. Update: we found out who she is. It appears that we hired her to work with him on college algebra when he was in his 3rd semester. I have a pic, not half bad, and yep, in her 40s, no children, former educator, now works at a financial services company. That boy, at least he is out of the house. Here's a funny one that spans over 15 years. I'm like 16 at the time, kinda straight edge and nerdy, but have a lot of friends that aren't. Had a couple friends over, hanging out in my room. One of them starts breaking up a cocaine rock on my bed and snorting it through a dollar bill. I freak out. I tell them my parents are gonna find out and they need to go. Don't want it in the house and that's kinda rude. So they start leaving through the door and I'm like, no, you have to go out the window. I'm really convincing about why they have to go out the window, and they leave, crawling out the window. I'm thinking I'm so smart because they avoided my parents and attracted no attention. Apparently my stepfather was there. He never mentions anything. Over 15 years pass. I'm in my 30s. My brother has a girlfriend my parents haven't met. It's Thanksgiving. The topic of relationships comes up. I have never dated intentionally. Parents occasionally prod me for not settling down. My stepfather makes some off-color remark about how I've been getting laid since high school. He saw me make a woman crawl through my bedroom window to sneak out. At that point I'm just cracking up. Not only that, the woman is who my brother is dating now, which I never would have imagined in 1000 years. So, yes, he knew something I didn't want him to know, but also came to the wrong conclusion. Apparently he got a very good look at her face, so I think he is in for a surprise too. This is quite the opposite story. So I was 14 at the time, and I was cleaning the house with my younger sister, and she was cleaning my parents' desk. My sister, being the nosy little what she is, she opens up a desk drawer and finds some condoms. And right besides the condoms was my mother's dildo, hopefully my mother's. Fast forward to early this year, we had recently moved, and the dildo was placed in a bigger drawer on the top shelf. It didn't take my sister and I long to find out where it was. My parents don't know that we know where it is being placed. One day my father comes home with a new small flat screen TV and was making things around. The drawer was in the way and we had to move it to another location in the room. My dad calls me over and asks me to help him carry the drawer. As we pick up the drawer, the top shelves start to slide out. On one split second I knew what was going on and my dad was now on tactile alert. He flashes his shoulder just to close the shelf. Before I saw anything in the drawer, I saw everything and I haven't said anything about it. The look of embarrassment on his face that day is kinda funny to this day. Stepmom to 2 boys. I'm the eldest's worst nightmare. I was the sneaky really smart kid who knew how to get away with anything and everything as a kid. Those skills have made me the best at knowing whenever he lies or is trying to sneak something. For example, at the end of the night I know exactly how many bowls are in the cupboard and how many are in the sink, which means I know if he decided to skip breakfast so he could play video games instead, because there won't be enough bowls missing from the cupboard or enough bowls with a tiny bit of milk left. I also know what it sounds like if he's grabbing an approved snack, which means he never gets away with sneaking something extra, like the chocolate chips I made him cough up one day. I'm ridiculously aware of everything that happens in my house and know all the tricks. He gets away with nothing. Every once in a while I don't care enough about his hijinks or choose not to reveal my secrets by telling him I know he did something. Sometimes it's better to make him think he's good enough so he won't try to get any better. It was a big shock to my nephew while we were temporarily living with them to suddenly have an adult in the house who knew whenever he was laying. Like, he was so obvious about hiding his homework behind a fake plant that I still can't tell how his parents missed it. Chilled parentception here. I know my parents know things about me that they don't know I know they know about me. I'm an adult. I moved back in with my mother last year because I was awesome at being an adult and was very responsible with my money. This is context and not on the list. I know they, on occasion, check my Word document stories I write, thus they know about my debauchery/imagined debauchery. I know they check my room sometimes, so know I often smoke cigarettes, am filthy, hence single, 5/7 days of the week, and don't mind the ganja. I know they get curious and check my internet from time to time, so have seen me being everything my entire family hates in general conversation. Thus the parental units may see this Reddit post, eventually point theories. I have a theory that my mother may actually be, secretly, incredibly tech savvy, and may actually be able to track everything they know. I think that they know things about me that they don't know I know about them knowing about me. But now that I know that they know that I think that I know that they know things about me that they don't think I know they know. I win. Wait, sheet. I would take afternoon nap in my parents' room and would slip out to the terrace to fly kites. It's a famous month-long affair in my city. Every day by crawling my way out of the room from near their bed. This happened for a couple of years. Sometimes they'd catch me and send me back to take the nap. Many times they wouldn't catch me, or so I thought. As it turns out, they could see my reflection leaving in the mirror in their room and just chose to stop me on days where they thought I would get too tired or when it was too hot outside, and let me go the rest of the days. We had a table tennis table growing up, and I was working hard to try and beat my dad, but I never could until one day I finally won, barely. I gradually got better and used to beat my dad with a good margin as well many times. After 2 to 3 years, my elder brother slipped out that mom had asked dad to let me win a couple of times. I couldn't believe it, and as I had thought I had been playing for a couple of years now, and even if dad let me win back then, I would definitely defeat him now. I begged dad for a rematch and made him promise he wouldn't take easy on me. To say that he wiped the table with my tears and shame would be an understatement. He completely decimated me in the game, and in every other game that followed that day. I love my parents so much. A double-headed whammy to this question that just happened from 2 different angles and is still happening and still trying to cope with. Please bear with me. 1 week ago my husband and I decided to see a light-hearted teen movie on Netflix. Although I had seen it before, for some reason, right after it was done this time I had a bad reaction, in that I had spent my entire teen years being a completely closeted Mormon teen boy who was the fearful, well-behaved, if I just do everything right, they'll never know person. Of course, they knew, they just believed that, if they were faithful enough, I would come out of it, and out I came indeed in my 20s. Although I have moved on in a big way with a great husband and raising 2 teens, a daughter, 16 and son, 14, and having a great current relationship with my mother, dad passed away. Seeing this glowing on-screen example of carefree teen life I had felt completely robbed of and thought I had processed long ago. Just left me with an extreme sense of grief and loss that I'm uncharacteristically having a hard time shaking. I'm normally a pretty optimistic person who works through his own shit well, so this is also very irritating at the same time. This is relevant because a few days back, my daughter had needed to use my otherwise little used iPad to communicate with friends while her damaged phone was replaced. I just went to use it yesterday and realized that she had not logged out of her accounts as all of her current communications popped up on the screen. What would otherwise have been a parental jackpot turned to ashes as I saw her recently talking with a friend about she and her younger brother both sneaking out of our house at night to meet with others and get some pot. I have always tried so hard to be a great, cool, understanding and supportive dad, but this learning of this deception by both of my teens who I love dearly has sent me reeling. I keep fluctuating between anger, confusion, feelings of betrayal, and yet also a high amount of self-doubt as to my ability to process this effectively and appropriately right now. My upbringing was very different than this has been, very structured, but no religion and overall pretty liberal. Pot is medically available where I live, and I have mentioned to them that I'm along the same line with it as far as they are concerned as I'm with alcohol, which is once they are of legal age I'm okay leaving it up to them to choose. We drink moderately. Am I overreacting to this? Should I say something, or should I calm down, because this is actually not that big of a deal? To me it sounds like a lot is hitting you at once right now. Your son did deceive you, but I don't think he was necessarily doing it to be hurtful. He sounds like a kid who is curious about things just like every other kid. But kids don't like getting in trouble either. They will often assume a punishment instead of just a good talk. Anyway, I digress. Right now you are dealing with a lot of emotions and the last thing you want to do is accidentally take out your feelings of your youth on him. I would take some time to process them and separate them in your mind before talking to your son. As for the weed portion of the conversation, I will say it does have benefits, and I do not believe it will harm him as long as he doesn't overdo it. However, I would suggest looking up some more information about the effects of weed on those under 18. I will say I do not think the weed itself is as big of an issue as the deception. Kids will do and try things, but trust is the most important thing, and from your response it feels this is one of the core of issues for you. Plus you are feeling regret about your youth and you see your children doing the sorts of things those kind of movies have in them. It makes sense that you are feeling this way. I know my response might have been a bit unorganized, but I hope I helped. Doesn't really apply as I'm not a parent, nor do I know any secrets, but I'm terrified that my dad knows I'm on misdemeanor probation for pot possession. I'm a young adult and living on my own. Live in the same city as him and my stepmom, though, and my offense happened after I moved out, but my whole life he has always been very anti-drugs and specifically anti-weed. It's actually a big part of what led to me being pushed out of his house. Since the charge and my starting probation, I've been living somewhat of a double life around him and giving many excuses for why I can't go out of town with him or why I don't drink anymore. The drinking and not going out isn't a problem as I never enjoyed drinking, but I'm constantly stressed because him and I are very close and he's probably my best friend. I hate keeping anything from him, and the fact that all of my siblings and mother know while him and my stepmom do not kills me inside. I'm just terrified of him finding out because I'm truly afraid that he would disown me or cut me out of his life. It honestly sounds dumb and unreasonable to think that now that I type it out, but I do wonder if he knows and just isn't saying anything to allow me some peace of mind. Point again, I don't even know if this belongs in the thread, but I did want to get it off of my chest.